long overdue. Our comprehensive plan, for those of you who don't know, was adopted in 1989, so 34 years ago. And while we've had amendments to it over the years, they've been driven by the legislation and some minor amendments here and there, and it's really long overdue for the vision of Manatee County, especially with the growth we've experienced in the last few years. We are working under a consultant. Some of you already had a chance to meet Kelly Klepper with Kinley Horn here tonight. He has a team of representatives here as well, so I'll let you introduce all of them. And they're going to lead our presentation and discussion tonight, and then they'll explain the process and the different aspects of the evening. There'll be discussion, there'll be some breakouts, opportunities. So Kelly will guide us along the way, and so I'm going to turn it over to you. Here. So thank you, Kelly.
Thanks, Nicole. So the one thing I will say is if for some reason you cannot hear me, just do the ever popular one of those. I know it's a very small, intimate group tonight, so I'm going to stay out here closer. But the one thing we wanted to do first and foremost is to thank you for coming out tonight. This is the very first meeting of a long series of processes, workshops, public input opportunities, as well as things that I'll say we want to hear from you. I'll be the first one to tell you that I've got an incredible team. You've got a couple of the folks here with us tonight. Monet Moore, and I'm going to go through some of the stations, but Monet is a planner with our team. We have Trevor Poole. Trevor is another planner. We have Chad Davis, another planner with the team. Now, the group that we did not bring with us, all of us tonight, there's about 40 more behind this core group of engineers, landscape architects, and when I say engineers, utility engineers, roadway engineers, stormwater, looking at all the aspects of the county's comprehensive plan. Now, the other thing that I will tell you is, and I'm sorry, I'm going to keep moving around and walking, so if I go out of frame, just let me know, is there again, this is the first workshop. We have 2 more this week, so we are at Central Library tomorrow night, and then we're up in my home library of Rocky Bluff Thursday night, and then next week we have what I call Bayshore, which is the south portions of the county, and then we also have Braden River. All of the presentations and the activities we're doing tonight are going to be the exact same that we're going to have on this initial round to start kind of kicking off the process itself. Tomorrow night, and then one of the other ones are actually going to be live cast across the county through a Zoom link. There is an invitation link that you can log on to as part of that. One of the things I'll tell you is, if you've got friends or family that could not make it, they're out of town, by all means, this is not the only opportunity to provide comments to us. More importantly, it's the very beginning of this. I'm going to talk through a couple of things as it relates to the county's comprehensive plan. I'm going to talk about some of the schedules, some of the things that we're being asked to kind of look at, and I'll say just a general overview of a comprehensive plan in general. When Nicole was talking about the initial comprehensive plan was adopted in 1989, how much has changed in Manatee County since 1989? A lot. I will tell you, I've been here for the better part of actually over 18 years. So, moved down from central Kentucky. There's a good story that I'll tell offline, so it doesn't get recorded, but it's a really good story. It involves my wife. But I will also say that I'm proud to be called Manatee County home. I'm proud to say that both of my sons graduated from Palmetto High School. Both have gone on to do great things, and this is where proud dad moment. I have one that just graduated from the University of Central Florida and is in the Army. Second lieutenant, will be flying helicopters. And then I've got another one up at the University of Florida in engineering. Manatee County is an incredible place to live, to grow, to work, to develop a family. And part of this process that we're here tonight is to listen. Now, the one thing you'll notice is there's not a central microphone right here in the center of the room. And that's kind of done on purpose, because what we find a lot of times is people, unfortunately, will not start to talk to us. They will start to just listen in. They start to get a little shy. So instead, what we try to do is to get everybody up and walking around and providing comments on different things. Some of them seem a little simple, you may think, but there's a reason that we do certain things, and I'll say that there's a lot of information that we actually are able to pull from that. And we're going to talk about some of the activities tonight. So as part of this, we're going to go through these kind of components as far as the project schedule, the comprehensive plan. We're going to hit some highlights on what the comprehensive plan is, some of the key elements. We're not going to dive into every single one of the goals, objectives, policies tonight, other than to say, and I'm kind of old school, so I apologize, this is the county County's comprehensive plan. This is all the elements that we have, about 13 different elements. And we'll kind of walk and talk through that in just a moment. But the comprehensive plan is that it's a plan, it's a vision, it's a long-term kind of approach to not only, and a lot of people think growth and development, but it's so much more than that. It's what are we doing with the land? What are we doing with transportation and mobility and bikes and houses and parks and preserves and historical resources and cultural aspects? And what we call, sea level, we're working with environmental features and coastal. And we start thinking about those of you who've lived in this community for a long time. Manatee County is one of the more diverse communities across the state of Florida, both from a population growth perspective, but also, if you think about it, we have coastal areas along the barrier islands as well as some of the other areas. We have the riverine areas. We have urban, suburban, and we'll kind of walk through that. We also have rural. We have active ag. We have active businesses and employment. We have a lot of different things. We've got a very active transportation network, and it's not just cars. It's the cars, it's transit, it's bicycles, it's pedestrian connections, it's the parks and recreation systems that we have. All of those things go into being an integral part to the county itself. So, what is the comprehensive plan? What are we doing? So one of the first things that we have to do is to say, okay, let's look at the comprehensive plan as it's currently adopted. So that plan that you saw right there is the first thing that we start to do. Our team goes back and we take a look and we start looking at what's going on from a comprehensive plan perspective. How does it address, or does it address items that have been provided or adopted through the recent legislative changes through the Florida statutes? So we're taking a look to make sure that there are some statutory components that are being addressed, and if not, we flag those. We start to engage with you all throughout this process. Again, there is not just a one and done for us tonight. It's throughout the entire process itself. At the end of the time, we will come up with a series of recommendations, and we're going to come back out to the community and also through the county's website and online presence. And then, of course, the public hearings, the required components through the Planning Commission as well as the Board of County Commissioners. Now, for those of you who have been engaged and have taken a comprehensive plan process before, this is not something we do in 30 days or 60 days or even 90 days. Some of you that have been through this process before know it takes about a year. There's a lot of input analysis that goes through this and a lot of interim steps along the way. So there you go. I kind of talked about this, but what we're trying to do is look at how the different elements coordinate, work together, whether it's land use and infrastructure, the water, the wastewater, the environmental systems, the parks, facilities. How do we get there? Where do our kids go to school? Where do they play? Even as simple as what about our pets? Believe it or not, all of that is actually something that is kind of incorporated into an overall component of the comprehensive plan. And there again, it's a vision. A lot of people, and we'll talk about this in just a second, confuse the comprehensive plan with the zoning code or the land development code. The code is the code, and that's what is the formal regulation. This is setting up that initial framework, then we take the next step with the code. So there's actually a secondary process behind this. And that's that third bullet that you see there. So all of the things that we're going to be talking about and updating and reviewing through this process form the basis for the updated code components. The other thing I will make sure to say is this is a public process. This is not something that Kimley Horn does and we give a report back to the county. This is not something that we do kind of behind the scenes. This is a public process. There's a lot of opportunities for interaction. Now, for those of you who don't know about Kimley Horn, there's probably a lot of you that don't. We are a national consulting firm. I've been working actually with the county I did one of the last comprehensive plan reviews before it changed in the Florida statutes component back in 2010. I've been actively engaged with the county on a number of pursuits and endeavors, including everything from land use development in and around the airport on behalf of the county to some analysis as far as more recently with a Parks and Recreation Master Plan. All of which there again was done in a similar type of process. All of which goes into what we're talking about tonight. So 2 points to remember, and you're going to hear me say, well, that's not required, that's not part of the Florida statutes. The comprehensive plan is not the land development code, it's not our zoning regulations. The statutes actually say that actually should be separate. What we find is that a lot of communities actually put things in the comprehensive plan that really should be more applicable in the code itself. I'll give you a great example. one of the communities that we worked with previously actually had building heights in the comprehensive plan. It had parking regulations. And you may be going, okay, what's the big deal? Well, yeah, that was a regulatory component, so that's the reason, we start to identify this, and this is one of the things that the state statutes kind of call out is, we're trying to look at the goals, objectives, what's that vision, how are we going to get from point A to point B over the next 5, 10, 20 years? And that's a critical thing to be thinking about, is we are looking between 2023 to 2045, and actually a little bit longer than that. So the project schedule, I apologize, this is a little difficult to see at this scale, but this will actually be published on the county's website. So we're in this initial data collection phase, community outreach meetings. We plan to try to have everything kind of analyzed in a preliminary report to county staff as part of this process in November. And then working through that process about July to, we'll say, third, fourth quarter of 2024, so the end of the summer next year, coming up with a series of recommendations that would go to the Planning Commission as well as the Board of County Commissioners. So what's going to be analyzed? Everything that you see here: stormwater, water, wastewater, environmental systems, population, parks and recreation facilities, transportation, land use, redevelopment activities, cultural and historical components as well. The one thing I'll say that we don't get involved with or engaged with at this point is the City of Bradenton's comprehensive plan, or Longboat Key, or Anna Marie Island. We use those as part of this process to help inform, but it's not something that we're formally analyzing at that point. Why? Because they have their own comprehensive plan and their own municipal components of that. So we'll be kind of coordinating with them to see what they're doing, and likewise sharing information back and forth. So the elements that you see here, we're going to dive into a few of those, just kind of give you that high level so that we can kind of give you a little bit of information here. But those are the elements as it's laid out currently in the comprehensive plan, and it's also those items that are required per the Florida statutes. Everything from land use to conservation, all the way to public facilities and property rights, public school facilities, all of which is part of the comprehensive plan. So, why do we do this? Well, one, the state says thou shalt. Two, they say thou shalt look at this every 7 years. The county actually is a little bit more proactive, and they say, well, you know what? Things change between that 7 years, so we want to think a little bit more proactive in some of this. Also, when you start looking at it, over the last couple of years, we've had a little bit of population change, haven't we? Right now, the population trends between the next, we'll say, 20 plus years are over 100,000 people more potentially coming to Manatee County. Where are they going to live? Where are they going to work? Where are they going to school? How are they getting around? And where are they going to go for, baseball, pickleball, hiking, all of those things. So that's something that we have to look at for a lot of different activities. From a land use perspective, we're looking there again, what's on the ground today versus what could be on the ground tomorrow in the next 20 years. We're looking at the vacant lands. Could properties be redeveloped? What we call infill development. Are there areas where you could do more increased development, we'll say along the trail, that we're, instead of keep going further out east? Or does it make sense to go out east? All those things are types of things that we look at. The future land use, series of maps, we're talking about the future. This isn't the zoning map, but this is saying this is what we envision happening within these properties or in these areas, and there's a certain series of standards that goes with that. But it also talks about, and I know a lot of you have probably seen this, a range of what we call density and intensity. How many houses can be built on that piece of property, or how big of a building can we build for commercial or industrial? All of that's kind of a guiding framework that's incorporated within this land use element. Conservation. So, one of the things that we're looking at with that is the water, I'll say the environmental systems, the native habitats, the listed species, gopher tortoises. We're looking at some of those, grand tree protections and enhancements, all of which have to be kind of looked at as part of this comprehensive plan. Coastal management, because we do have just a little bit of area that is encompassed by coastline. Because we do have some, I'll say some critical habitats within those coastal areas, we want to make sure that there again, the state's provided some information as it relates to not only coastal environments, but also sea level and things of that nature. So that's some of the things that we have to identify and analyze as part of this comprehensive plan. There are what we call coastal planning areas. some things that we call, it's going to get really technical, called a coastal high hazard. And that's where we're trying to, guide development out of those areas, so that when we do have sea level rise, or we have storms or whatever, we're not putting people in jeopardy at that point. So there's actually some state laws and state provisions on those types of projects as well. Transportation. First thing, when I say this, a lot of people say, okay, we're talking about cars. And it is so much more than cars. Why? Because it's cars, it's transit. We have MCAT here. It's really good. It's underutilized, but it's good. We have bicycle facilities. We have what we call micromobility, so those little electric bikes and scooters that go running around, which, by the way, I do not encourage those, especially if you do not wear a helmet. So that's my one public service message for tonight. But part of it is, do we just keep adding lanes to certain roads, or can we get a little smarter with some of that? Can we look at trying to increase the amount of trails and bicycle facilities between neighborhoods and certain things? That was actually one of the key things that we came out with the Parks Master Plan is, where do people live, what parks are they going to, and how do they get there? There again, so it's not just all about the cars, it's about all modes of transportation, all of which is incorporated and reviewed as part of this process. Now, the interesting thing is, Manatee County also has 2 extra little things that we get to work with. Anybody ever heard of Port Manatee? The port is a great economic engine, and that's something that we have to analyze from a land use perspective. And then I'll say that little facility, it's on the southern end of Manatee County, kind of shares with Sarasota.
Yeah, an airport.
The airport. Sarasota, Bradenton International Airport, of course, always go, why not call it Sarasota Manatee or something at that point, but that's another topic. But there again, that's a facility that we have to make sure we're addressing from a compatibility standpoint, to make sure that we don't put high rises right in the line of where planes are coming and going. Planes are loud. We all get it. They come up, they go down, there's a lot of people, there's a lot of activity, so we need to make sure, especially working within the confines of state law, that we're working to address and protect those areas. So that's actually part of the transportation discussion as well. Level of service, you may hear that quite a bit. That's something else that the state mandates that we are also looking at. Level of service is a ratio or a number of how many cars are we looking, or how many people, or how many bikes or sidewalks are we able to do within a certain area at a certain time. So part of the discussion that we'll be having, and I will say that's overly simplified, because if you're like me and you're going home from work, 5:30 in the afternoon on I-75 is a lot different than if I'm going at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So we do have to look at different times of days and different routes as well. Housing, where do we all live? Is it single family? Is it a duplex? Is it an apartment building? Do we have relatives that live in an assisted living facility? Do we have manufactured home communities? Where does everybody live? So that's the other thing we start to look at. What are the housing needs that we have as a community, especially when we start talking about 100,000 people coming to Manatee County over the next 20 years? Do we have enough housing to supply for all of that? Do we have enough range of housing opportunities? Do we have housing for our underserved and underprivileged? All of which is something that we take very seriously as part of this. Recreation and open space. Again, one of my more proud moments, we did work, like I said, with the county on the update of the Parks Master Plan. This was a very comprehensive look at the county's recreation system. So it's not just the parks, but it's the parks, the preserves, the trails, all those linkages. If you've not had a chance to review that and you're say interested, there is a version that you can pull from that. Really great study that was done, adopted by the board. A lot of information that went into that to address where, how, and how much, and literally what can we do as a county. This is the one thing I'll always joke about as well. Pickleball. 10 years ago, who had ever heard of pickleball? I hadn't. Now you can't get me off the pickleball courts. But it's one of those things, believe it or not, pickleball's been around since the 60s. This is another one of those things, if you get really excited, the History Channel has great shows, and there's also this great thing called Google. Take a look at the history of pickleball. It actually is pretty interesting. But there again, rec and open space, how are we connecting those recreational activities? It's a little more difficult, especially right now with the heat, but it's about the external as well as the internal facilities that we have. Public facilities, water, wastewater, stormwater. As I joke with some of my utility engineers, if I turn on the spigot, I want to be able to get water. If I use the dishwasher, I want to make sure the water's going somewhere else. Making sure we have enough capacity in those systems for that, as well as addressing stormwater. It rains, the water's got to go somewhere. Where's it going? So part of that is also addressed during this review of the element. So there again, we've kind of touched on some of these. We really haven't touched on all of them. The goal tonight was not to do a in-depth for each of these elements. One, there's going to be a lot more in-depth process, but just kind of give you an overview and intro into what is the comprehensive plan, what is the process, and more importantly, to start getting your thoughts. And there's a couple of ways we do that. There is going to be an online portal that we have set up here in short order. It's going to be through the county's website. And it is an online mapping tool. It also collects data points. It allows you to provide comments on a variety of different topics. So when we roll that out, there's actually going to be a fairly broad announcement through the county's website and also through their social media showing you the link of what this is and how we're using it, what we're trying to collect. We're actually going to have it open 2 different times. One is kind of like this review process to find out what you think initially. And then as we get further into this process, opening it back up again with some additional information, kind of refining. So we start off very broad and we come down to a more narrowed approach to find out what people think. What do they like, what do they not like? Where do they want it? Where do they not want it? Similar to what we're talking about tonight. So there's a couple of different things we're going to ask you to do. This is where you actually have to get up, walk around in just a second, and engage with our staff and our teams here. So each of our stations has somebody from the Kimley-Horn team as well as a representative from the county. So the tall gentleman that you see right there, Chad and I are going to be working over here with the maps. What we've done is we've broken the county up into 5 quadrants, and we have a series of stickers. And you may be like, oh great, stickers. If I have little kids come in, we usually lose about half of our stickers to the kids, which is fine. But there's going to be we're going to be asking you a couple of things. So, somewhere on that map, we're going to ask you to place the sticker. You can talk to us about it, you can tell us why you want to do it, what you're doing. If we need to number it to help kind of with some of that commenting, we will do that. But take the sticker, and each one of these has a different topic, and I want to tell you about that in just a minute. Trevor is going to be over here using a similar type of stickers. We want you to prioritize what is most important to you as you're talking about the comprehensive plan, and what do you want us to hear. And so, number 1 is just like it says, what is your number 1 priority in these specific topics? What's number 5? There again, if there's some commentary that goes with it, let us know so we can capture that. But the idea is there again, we want to know where the item is that you're really concerned about, what's most important to you, and then, this is where it gets a little tricky, Monet's going to be helping facilitate what we call 1 word. Now, as you can tell for the last 10 minutes, I cannot come up with 1 word for a lot of things, but I'm going to ask, if you were to tell somebody, what's your thought of Manatee County right now in 1 word? Yeah, I do the same thing. Now, the best part about it is, assume that I am brand new to Manatee County. I've not been here 18 years. And I go, you know what? Thinking about coming to Manatee County, what's the 1 word you would describe it right now?
Chaos.
So, you can say that, you can write that, anything is fair game. I'm not going to edit, I'm not going to censor. I'll be the first one to tell you that. Also, what do you want the county to be in the next 10, 20 years? So you get 1 word for each of those. You got to think about it. Now, I will tell you that I've had some folks before grab about 8 of these, and it was 1 word creating 1 sentence. 8 words, 1 word for a full sentence. That doesn't count, folks. Okay? The other thing is you cannot tear the stickers in half. Trust me, been there, done that. Please don't tear the stickers because that just will negate your vote. But Chad and myself will be there, Trevor, Monet, plus the county staff. Here's the other thing. 1, when you came in and you signed in, please, hopefully everybody remembered to sign in. there is a comment box. Anything that you want to share above and beyond, there are a series of comment slips, pins up there. We want to hear from you. You can write a book on that one, okay? We want to hear any and all thoughts. Why do I say any and all thoughts? Because it is just that. This is the county's plan. This is not Kimley Horn's plan. This is not us going, well, we know better than you. You're the residents. Yeah, I've been here 18 years. You've been here a number of years as well. And one thing I will tell you is all the comments that we receive do not get edited out. They get, I'll say, summarized into a report. All of that information goes to the Planning Commission as well as the Board of County Commissioners and also to the state as part of our review process. So we'll be scanning in all these comments. We'll be taking those verbatim. We may, if we can't read your handwriting, I apologize. We'll do our best on some of that. But at the end of the day, there again, we want to make sure we're capturing comments the way you want us to. So we kind of talked about that with the one word, the priorities. And I'm gonna leave this screen up here for a second. So the yellow is housing. So this is, where would you like to see more housing, infill housing, better housing, or something else for us? The blue sticker, the second one down, transportation. That could be roads, that could be bike trails, it could be trails itself, it could be transit. The navy blue one, land use. So where would you like to see, or would you like to see new development or more development or whatever at that point? And we've had people put this on the trail. It's like, hey, we want everything focused on the infill. Great, that's what we want to hear. The fourth one down, the dark green tree, that one's pretty easy. Environmental considerations. So, you know, where do you have the biggest concern? That could be coast, it could be the Manatee River, it could be Brayton River, it could be whatever that you want to put the dot on. And then the lighter green at the very bottom of parks. Where would you like to see either more parks, better parks, expanded parks, or something else at that point? So, there again, we can help facilitate some of that for you tonight. The one thing I'll say is this is going to be, like I said, a little bit lengthy process. You can stay involved. There's going to be a page in the information on the county's website. I'm pretty sure everybody has been able to kind of navigate that before, but we'll make sure before you head out of here that you understand where to find and what you're doing. And there's also an email and a phone number that you can leave comments on or coordinate. And there again, if you were kind enough to provide your email, like I said, we're going to capture that, and we'll try to make sure we're getting as much information out to you as this process is going. So with that, Nicole, did you have anything?
I have one question before we speak. This whole presentation, can we share with everybody who offered an email here tonight?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, we'll just proactively do that.
Yeah.
So they don't have to worry about asking you to
Oh,
show
yeah, no.
pictures.
Great question. So this presentation is going to be put on the county's website, and we can also share that. Like I said, the tomorrow night and the one next week are going to be recorded via Zoom, so that we can have that and you can share that with some of your friends and other folks as well. Thank you for reminding me about that, Nicole. Any other questions from county, or comments from the county staff? Kimley Horn team, anything? So what I'm going to ask you to do is, get up, mingle around. We're going to be walking around and talking, so if you want to catch us, you can kind of grab us. And with that, like I said, we'll be here till 7:30 or until the last person has a question. Okay? All right. Thank you very much.
Hey, Kelly, can we start anywhere, or should we start?
You can start anywhere that you want. You can
Okay.
hang out as long as you want or as
All
little
right.
as you want.